9 spine-chilling nights exposed, sinister secrets of a haunted Walmart you must discover. Claire felt the chill creep down her spine as she stepped into the dimly lit Walmart, the flickering fluorescent lights casting a ghostly glow on the aisles. It was just past midnight, and the world outside slumbered in peace while she, a weary single mother, clocked in for another grueling night shift. The store, once her haven, now felt like a haunted maze where shadows lurked and whispers floated through the air. At first, she dismissed the flickering lights as a normal malfunction, a simple glitch she'd grown accustomed to. But as the store sank deeper into silence, Claire sensed something sinister. The temperature dropped sharply, leaving her breath visible in the air, and the quiet murmurs growing louder, as if a presence stirred within the rows of household goods. Each aisle told a story of unnerving stillness, and she could almost hear the secrets hiding in the corners. The rustle of plastic wrap from the back rooms sent a jolt of panic through her. She glanced around to see if anyone else had noticed, but her colleagues had dwindled. They'd vanished without explanation. Was it her imagination? Or was it the oppressive air of dread thickening with every passing night? Rumors were seeping through Maplewood like poison strange happenings, employees warned not to stay after hours, and whispers of a dark past that twisted through the very walls of the store. "Stay away from the store after hours." Her manager's cryptic text echoed through her mind, clawing at her thoughts. She wanted to laugh it off, but the urgency in those words rooted deep fear within. It was the first time she felt a true chill, not from the air, but from the realization that her safe haven was slipping away. As her heartbeat quickened, she glanced toward the toys aisle where her children loved to play during the day. A feeling of dread washed over her when she noticed a small shadow creeping across the floor. Immediately, her thoughts spiraled. What if this wasn't just about the eeriness of the store? What if there was something more? What if the town where she raised her kids was hiding something malignant? Claire felt herself teetering on the edge of despair when she heard a voice, soft yet unmistakable, calling her name from the depths of the store. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Claire's pulse raced as she called out her children's names, her voice echoing off the barren shelves. What started as a routine inventory check became a harrowing search through the labyrinth of aisles. The fluorescent lights continued to flicker, each burst was a haunting reminder that she was not alone. A presence lurked close, watching her from the shadows. Panic turned her heart into a drum, beating violently against her chest. Suddenly, her foot caught on something hard, and she stumbled, falling to the ground. When she turned to see what had tripped her, her breath caught in her throat. An ancient mark was etched deep into the concrete, lines twisted into grotesque symbols. It glowed faintly, pulsating like a heartbeat of something from another realm. She's seen these marks in whispered tales, but this was no story. This was real, and it left her trembling in terror. Claire's instincts screamed at her to run, but her heart anchored her to the ground where her children's laughter had once filled that very space. Could they still be here? Unseen by her, trapped in the shadows where adults only glimpse terror? The mounting dread draped over her like a suffocating blanket. Just as she resolved to face her worst fears, she heard the voice again, "Mommy." The sound was chilling, fragile, and so close. The sheer horror of what was happening unfurled within her, as she realized the true menace may not dwell in the haunted aisles but among the very townsfolk she thought she could trust. Claire's breath quickened, her skin prickling with goosebumps as the whisper echoed again, "Mommy." It felt like ice-flecked wind wrapping around her heart. She scrambled to her feet, her palms sweaty against the cold, unforgiving concrete. Her mind raced in circles. Was this the beginning of madness? Or had she found herself in something too real, too terrible to comprehend? She turned slightly, trying to pinpoint the voice's origin. The toys aisle yawned open, inviting yet daunting. That voice could belong to her daughter, Lily, lost somewhere in this nightmarish twilight. "Lily?" she called out, fear fraying her nerves. No response came but the lingering echo. Every aisle suddenly seemed more suffocating, each shelf a potential barrier between her and her child. Moving cautiously, she approached the toys, the enticing brightness of colors now tainted with shadows that danced ominously in the dim light. Her heart hammered violently in her chest as she glanced down the narrow path. She half expected something to spring out at her from the darkened apparition, a twisted figure. Instead, nothing but silence met her frantic gaze. A flicker caught her eye, not the lights this time, but a movement. The plush toys. One by one, they weren't just positioned randomly anymore, they were facing her. Claire's stomach churned, and panic gnawed at her insides. Were they watching? Were they alive? She clenched her fists, summoning what courage she had left. "Lily, I'm coming!" she screamed. Her voice broke the dreamlike tension. But instead of reassurance, all she received was a deep, unsettling stillness. It wasn't silence. It felt alive, thick with secrets. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the calmness. Claire spun around and sprinted towards the sound, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The grocery section stood ahead, the tall shelves now darkened. Shadows flickered at the periphery of her vision, swirling like banshees among the cereal boxes. She hesitated, the memory of her manager's warning slithering back into her thoughts. Stay away from the store after hours. Ignoring the advice, she pressed on, dread pooling in her stomach. Entering the grocery aisle felt like stepping into a different world. The product placement was strangely rearranged, items not where they belonged, the milk on the floor, cans rolling about on their own. An unnatural darkness seemed to coil around the edges, waiting to ensnare her. As Claire searched the aisle, she noticed something flickering in her peripheral vision, the checkout lane. Its lights glimmered like distant stars, beckoning her toward a potential escape. She darted down the aisle, but the once familiar route twisted and elongated, turning it into a perilous corridor. Another voice, this time stronger and desperate, reached her ears. "Help me!" It sounded like Tom, another employee who had disappeared just weeks before. Claire hesitated, battling the instinct to retreat. She had heard whispers suggesting Tom had stumbled into a dark ritual that bound the store and perhaps the town itself to something sinister. The knowledge sent a chill through her. But as she took a step back, unsure, something cold gripped her ankle. She gasped and looked down to see a skeletal hand emerging from the floor, claws brushing against her skin, trailing a bitter chill. "No!" she shrieked, yanking her foot away just in time. Desperation surged in her veins. She had to find Lily and now Tom too. She turned toward the checkout, knowing she had to confront whatever lay ahead. But as she approached, the lights flickered again, plunging her into darkness. A whisper exploded through the void, "You'll join us soon." Her heart raced as reality shifted. The store no longer felt like a building. It was alive, pulsing with dark energy. In the silence that followed, a horrific thought clawed its way to the forefront of her mind. Was she truly alone, or had the town's darkness infested not just the store, but her own life as well? With adrenaline pumping furiously, Claire had no choice but to take a bold step into the deepening shadows. The echoes of her fate melded with the whispers of the lost, drawing her closer to a terrifying encounter that would change everything. Could she uncover the truth before it consumed her? Or was she simply the next chapter in a sinister story? The air turned heavy, a thick fog wrapping around Claire's mind as she plunged deeper into the despairing darkness. Flashes of light sputtered above, creating a strobe effect that was unsettling. Every flicker revealed new horrors, frozen shadows contorted against walls, faces without bodies, and the unmistakable gleam of empty eyes watching her every move. Stumbling forward, Claire grasped the edge of a nearby shelf for support. It felt as though the very structure of the store had shifted, the aisles morphing into a labyrinthine snare designed to entrap her. "Lily!" she shouted, the name clawing its way from her throat, desperate to break the choking silence. But the response she received was not from her daughter, but a low growl almost animalistic echoing from the back of the store. A bead of sweat trickled down her brow as she pushed herself onward, each step filled with trepidation. With her heart pounding like a tribal drum, she began to run again, each footfall echoing menacingly around her. Just as she approached the dairy aisle, an overwhelming scent enveloped her, stale, like rot and despair. The fluorescent lights above buzzed ominously. There, perched on the edge of a corner shelf, lay a doll. Its porcelain face was cracked, and its glassy eyes glimmered in a way that invited dread rather than comfort. Claire felt herself drawn closer, as if a magnetic pull was urging her to grab the doll. What if it was a sign? She thought, the hope rooting itself in her survival instinct. But just as she reached out, the lights pulsated erratically, and she turned her head, scanning for movement. That's when she saw them figures emerging from the shadows. Dressed in tattered employee uniforms, their mouths stretched into ghastly smiles, eyes hollow, bodies drifting toward her with unnatural grace. Claire, one of them breathed, its whisper soft but deadly. She recognized the voice. It was Tom. Helplessness washed over her. You shouldn't have come back. You don't understand. The others moved closer, their limbs jerking like marionettes with frayed strings, the stench of decay intensifying. She stumbled back, her instinct screaming for her to escape, but panic locked her feet in place. Where's Lily? Claire gasped, her resolve slicing through her fear. She's safe. Tom's voice trailed off, the grin never fading as he pointed a finger towards the back of the store. For now. But time is slipping away. With a burst of resolve, Claire tore her gaze from the ghastly figures and sprinted toward the darkened corner where Tom had gestured. The shadows loomed, coiling and writhing like a living thing. As she pushed against the dark, it felt like an unseen force gripped her throat, squeezing tighter with each step. With a final thrust, she entered a back room shrouded in pure black. An awfully surreal scene lay before her, a makeshift altar made from boxes, lined with photos of missing children, their smiles eerily exaggerated. In the center, a single flickering candle cast dancing shadows over Lily's doll, which lay abandoned on the ground. Desperation clawed at her heart. Lily! Where are you? But instead of a voice, a haunting silence enveloped her. Staring at the altar, Claire's gut twisted with terror. She realized she was not just searching for her daughter. She was on the precipice of uncovering something much darker, an unholy covenant, and she would be the next sacrifice. Just then, the door slammed shut behind her, sealing her fate. A scream threatened to erupt, held back only by sheer willpower. Could she find her daughter and escape this madness? Or was she about to complete a grim cycle set long before she ever entered those haunted doors? A new whisper slithered through the dark. You are part of us now. Every ounce of her being screamed to fight, but the oppressive weight of the shadows pressed down. Claire took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever fortune awaited her. Once she left this room, was there a way back, or was there only one road forward, deeper into the heart of the horror? As Claire stood in that suffocating darkness, the shadows twisted and undulated around her like a living creature hungry for a meal. The cloying scent of decay was thick, almost tangible, crawling into her lungs and forcing her to fight against the rising panic. She felt for the door, hoping against all odds that it hadn't actually locked. Her hands trembled as they brushed against the cold metal handle, but no matter how hard she pulled, it was as unyielding as the fear gripping her heart. Lily's doll stared back at her, its cracked face reflecting the dim candlelight, and for a fleeting moment, Claire's heart ached with longing. Was her daughter simply lost somewhere in this twisted nightmare? Or was she trapped in something far worse? Despair clouded Claire's thoughts. She couldn't wait any longer. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, she turned away from the altar. The chilling silence pressed on her, accompanied only by the rhythmic ticking of a clock somewhere in the distance. Time felt like a serpent, winding tighter around her neck. Moving through the back room, she stumbled upon another doorway, barely visible in the murky gloom. With a swift push, it creaked open, ceding to her desperate will. The room beyond was filled with long-forgotten merchandise, rusty shelves heaving under the weight of dust-covered boxes. She could feel a cold, damp breeze curling around her ankles, whispering secrets of those who may have once wandered these aisles. Claire urged herself onward, firm in her resolve to find Lily. As she stepped gingerly deeper into the room, she heard the unmistakable sound of a child's laughter, bright and melodic, slicing through the oppressive darkness. It wasn't the laughter of joy but something more sinister, mingling with the shadows, echoing off the walls like a long-lost memory. Claire's heart sank. Was it Lily? Or a cruel trick of the store? The laughter morphed into a soft, taunting chorus. "Mommy, come play with us!" The voices echoed, luring her deeper into the store, weaving a tangled web of fear and temptation. She followed, even as every instinct screamed at her to run in the opposite direction. As she rounded a corner, the fluorescent lights flickering to life, her eyes widened, disbelief washing over her. There, in a clearing where several aisles converged, stood a circle of children. Their faces were pale and paralyzed in time, just like the photos that lined the altar. Each child held a doll, mirroring Lily's, and they smiled, their eyes gleaming with an eerie brightness. "Join us, Claire!" one child beckoned. "We can play forever." Horrified, Claire's stomach churned as the truth began to settle in. These were the lost, the remnants of those who had vanished into the store's grasp, forever trapped in a realm of twisted play. The realization sent icy fingers creeping down her spine. Would she become one of them? Would Lily? "Where's my daughter?" Claire spat, desperation fueling her voice. "What have you done to her?" The children giggled, their laughter echoing again like a haunting melody, a carnival of lost souls. "She's one of us now." Suddenly, the air thickened once more, a palpable wave of dread crashing into her. The joyful noises faded into a low, rumbling chant, growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. Join us, heart racing, Claire turned on her heel, retreating back the way she came. The aisles shifted before her, as if the very architecture of the store was alive. With her pulse pounding in her ears, Claire's eyes darted around for an escape route. But the shadows, satisfied with their harvest of fear, seemed to embrace her, pulling her back into the black abyss. Just then, through the haze, a glimmer caught her eye, a door, slightly ajar at the far end of the aisle. She sprinted towards it, the whispers surrounding her growing frantic. "Help us find the light," they chanted, the words curdling into a frenzy. Could she pry open the door to hope? Or was she merely running into a trap laid out by unseen forces, pushing her further into darkness? Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. The terror clung to her skin, begging her to turn back, but there was no time. In the distance, a small voice called her name, faint yet unmistakable. "Mommy!" With that, Claire launched herself toward the door, prepared to confront whatever awaited her on the other side. But would she be ready for the truth lurking there? Through the heavy door, Claire stumbled into a narrow corridor, the light flickering above her like a heartbeat in the dark. Each step echoed in her ears, amplified by her fear. The air here felt different, charged, electric. She pressed her back against the cold, damp wall, willing her breath to steady. "Mommy!" the child's voice called again, more desperate this time. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice trembling. "Where are you?" Silence answered her plea, thick and suffocating, wrapping around her like a shroud. Every instinct told her to move forward, yet every whisper of the store urged her to turn back. She caught a glimpse of a flickering light at the end of the corridor, and bolted toward it. Shadows danced just beyond her vision, twisting and fretting like caged beasts. Claire's heart raced as the walls around her seemed to pulse, vibrating with an unseen rhythm. Just as she reached the end, another laugh cut through the haunting melody, familiar and foreign all at once. "Come play with us, Mommy!" It felt as if the words had taken physical form, circling her, squeezing the air from her lungs. She skidded to a halt before a large room, its door slightly ajar. The golden light spilled like syrup from within, warm and inviting. Half dazed, she pushed the door open wider. Inside, it was a twisted mockery of a child's dream. Endless rows of toys lined the walls, all adorned with grinning faces. But they weren't just toys. They were alive, each moving ever so subtly, their eyes following her. Claire's stomach turned with nausea, terror winding tighter. The laughter shifted again, coalescing into that of children. A dozen dolls peered from shelves, their eyes wide, their mouths painted into chilling smiles. The room felt alive, breathing in sync with her frantic pulse. "Join us," they whispered in unison, their voices rich with enchantment and despair. "Where's Lily?" Claire demanded, feeling the walls constrict, pressing in on her. This wasn't a safe haven, it was a trap. As she stepped further in, a chill swept through, quickening the fluttering heart in her chest. The soft glow from the toys began to flicker, casting long shadows that clawed at her ankles. She turned, frantically looking for another way out, but the exit had vanished. "Lily!" she cried again, her voice cracking under the weight of dread. It was as if the store itself was listening, waiting, the shadows coiling tighter around her. She felt watched, hunted even. "Help us!" they chanted, their voices blending into a dissonant choir. "You can save us, Mommy!" Just then, the flickering lights dimmed, plunging her into near darkness. She could only see the faint outline of the toy shelf, looming over her, mocking. The doll faces glimmered in the dark, their expressions shifting, morphing into something twisted. Then it happened. A sudden silence fell, a void of sound. Claire's breath caught in her throat. The darkness seemed to pulse, growing heavier, and from it, an outline emerged. A small figure stood just at the edge of her vision. "Mommy?" Her heart leaped, hope igniting a spark. But the figure was shrouded in shadow, indistinct, flickering like a weak flame. Claire lunged toward it, desperation lending her strength. "Lily!" But as she got closer, the figure didn't solidify or come into focus. Instead, it began to dissolve into the air, transforming into wisps of darkness that swirled around her. The laughter erupted again, breaking the silence, this time sounding angry and sharp. "You will never find her," panic surged within Claire. She spun to escape, but the toys had come alive. They reached out with eager hands, grasping at her, pulling her back into their realm of despair. The walls quaked, the ceiling trembled. Claire humbled herself to the primal instinct to fight and flee, tearing away from the grasp of the toys. Just as she made a dash toward a flickering glow in the distance, the darkness erupted around her, and she abruptly stopped. "You have to choose, Claire!" a soft voice echoed in the chaos. "Join us or lose her forever." The choice loomed before her like the specter of death, each option fraught with terror. Was freedom worth the loss of Lily? Would she sacrifice her child or herself? Time ticked ominously, forcing her hand. As Claire hesitated, the shadows encroached closer. A choice had to be made, and with a surge of adrenaline, she prepared to meet her fate. What would it be? Madness or salvation? Claire's pulse quickened, echoing in her ears like a war drum. The whispers grew louder, merging into a dizzying cacophony of pleas. "Join us or lose her forever." The words reverberated in her mind, twisting her insides. Did she dare trust the shadows, knowing they twisted truth to ensnare the vulnerable? The glowing shapes of toys flickered around her, mocking her indecision. A doll, porcelain-skinned and eerily beautiful, tilted its head as if sensing her fear. "We'll protect you," it whispered, a promise laced with deception. Claire's instincts screamed at her to run, to fight for her daughter and her own sanity, but her legs felt heavy, as if the very flooring sought to hold her in place. "Mommy!" The voice of Lily, distant yet achingly familiar, drifted like smoke on the air. It tugged at her heart with every syllable. Claire's mind reeled, torn between the haunting calls of the toys and the desperate, fading voice of her little girl. What if they were right? What if she could save them both by surrendering? Shadows writhed closer, their hands grasping, fingers cold as ice. The decision a horrifying, suffocating weight threatened to crush her. "Ah, but Mommy," crooned a deeper voice that dripped with malevolence, "your little Lily is quite safe for now. How long will you hold on to hope?" A surge of despair swept over Claire. Would she be trapped forever between the love for her daughter and the empty promises of twisted toys? Gritting her teeth, Claire summoned a surge of will. "Lily!" she called out again, her voice steadying. "I'm coming for you." With each word, she willed herself to break free from the enchantment. She thrust her hands forward, pushing against the darkness. The oppressive shadows roared in protest, swirling faster, more chaotic. The lights pulsed, a strobing heartbeat, casting quick glimpses of the vile entities around her. Dolls shifted from their shelves, few remnants of innocence intact. Their expressions twisted into something grotesque, smiles curdling into creepy delight. Without warning, a pair of porcelain hands shot toward her, clutching at her arm, their grip like iron. Claire yanked away, fear tearing through her as she ducked and sprinted toward the flickering glow. The moment her foot touched the edge of that light, the laughter erupted into high-pitched screams. "You can't leave, Mommy! You belong to us!" Staring into the flickering light, she saw something other than toys. The outline of another door loomed behind a shelf, glowing like a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Ignoring the chance of despair behind her, Claire barreled toward it, praying it was a real escape. The shadows bellowed, a whirlwind of voices and turmoil clawed at her heels. Each step felt like stepping deeper into a hell of her own making, but a glimmer of hope flared within her. Just inches from the door, something pulled at her shirt, unwilling to let go. She stumbled, nearly falling, the ground sucking at her feet as if trying to devour her whole. "Mommy!" The resonance of her daughter's voice crackled to life, clear and haunting, weaving through the shrieks. "Help us!" Panic ignited anew, shoving Claire forward. She reached the door, pulling it wide open as air rushed in, sweet and dazzling, piercing through the suffocating shadows. But before she could cross the threshold, the laughter shifted, growing furious. "No! You cannot escape us, Mommy! We will find you, we will find your daughter!" The bitter sound of sizzling darkness surrounded her, seeping into her bones. Fear wrapped around her like chains. Then, amidst the swirl of shadows, a flicker of light. Lily's face appeared before Claire, pale and filled with raw terror. "Help me!" Without thinking, Claire lunged through the door, the shadows shrieking in pure rage. Just as she crossed into the light, a searing pain shot through her arm, and the darkness gripped tightly, snaring, wrapping like barbed wire. "Not yet, Mommy!" The door slammed shut just as she felt a sudden break in the pull. The air changed. The screams echoed behind the door, but they were muffled now, distant. Claire found herself in a narrow alley, the sweet scent of rain-soaked earth filling her lungs. But before she could catch her breath, a small voice whispered from the shadows beside her, "Mommy, you promised to save me." The knife of dread twisted deep, cold as ice. Who was there? What lingered in the shadows? Desperate to find answers and her daughter, Claire stepped forward into the unknown. But what awaited her beyond this revelation made her heart pound with a fresh terror, a question looming ominously. Could the darkness still reach her? Would she dare face it once more? Claire's breath caught in her throat as the shadows coiled around her, frames darkening the alley. The voice, familiar yet distorted, sent icy tendrils creeping down her spine. She turned, heart pounding, and peered into the gloom. "Mommy!" It was Lily's voice, softer now, almost pleading. "Help me please!" With every instinct screaming, Claire abandoned caution, stepping deeper into the shadows, searching for the source. Each footfall echoed, reverberating against the damp brick walls. The air grew thick, charged with a static energy that raised the hair on her arms. "Lily!" Claire called, her own voice trembling, barely managing to mask the rising panic. "Where are you?" A fleeting whisper came from behind a stack of crates. She rushed toward it, the shadows shifting as if anticipating her movements, almost playful. They slithered up the walls, casting long, claw-like shapes that reached for her. "Mommy!" The voice was louder now, closer, but coated with a frantic edge. "They're coming! You have to hurry!" Claire's heart lurched as she rounded the crates. What she saw froze her in place. A figure stood hunched at the far end of the alley, draped in tattered rags that flickered like candlelight. This face was not Lily's, but twisted eyes wide and dark, gleaming yet soulless. "Come play with us," it sang, the melody jarring. The figure twisted unnaturally, limbs stretching in impossible angles, inviting and terrifying all at once. "Get away from her!" Claire screamed, pushing back the tide of fear that surged through her. Just then, she caught a glimpse of a radiant glow peeking through the alley's end. Without thought, she bolted toward the light. But that voice, Lily's voice, was mixed with the chorus of laughter that echoed around her. "Mommy! You're leaving me!" Panic filled her chest. She could hear the shadows mocking her, but she couldn't stop. As she ran, fingers brushed against her skin, each icy touch tugging at her resolve. The air warped and twisted into shapes of lost spirits. "Join us!" they shrieked. Their voices melded into one, a horrifying symphony of despair. "Mommy, help!" An urgent scream from the distant shadows shattered Claire's concentration. Claire skidded to a stop, muscles coiled tight with conflicting emotions. The glow shimmered ahead, but Lily's cries anchored her. "Lily!" she shouted, desperation heating her voice. Out of the corner of her eye, the figure from before snapped its head in her direction, grinning wide, devilish. "You know you can't escape." "Choose," it hissed. A struggle erupted, warring within her. Choose? What did it mean? Choose the light? Choose the darkness? The echo of laughter grew closer, drowning out Lily's scream, until it was a deafening roar in her ears. Claire gritted her teeth, scrambling towards the glow. She could feel the walls closing in, shadows folding over her, while visions of her daughter slipped through her fingers. Then it happened. A burst of weightless silence swept over her as she stepped into the light. But as the shadows recoiled angrily, she didn't escape. The light flickered. Time warped. A deafening crack filled the air. Claire spun around just in time to watch the shadows unfurl like smoke. In their center, something dark and long-limbed darted toward her, eyes unblinking, teeth gleaming like knives. "That was a mistake, Mommy," it whispered. "Now you've really lost." Her anguish gripped Claire's heart as she stumbled back. The alley twisted and blurred, the light beckoning but so far away. Desperation clawed at her, but the darkness pressed forward, hungry and eager, craving the warmth of her fear. With a surge of adrenaline, she turned back toward the shadows. "I will find her," she shouted defiantly. But as the shadow lunged, so too did the ground shift beneath her feet, and her world spiraled into chaos. Would she find Lily, or had the darkness sealed both their fates? It's never just about choices. Sometimes, it's about what comes next. Claire's heart thundered in her ears as she steadied herself against the sudden disorientation. The darkness writhed around her, a living entity, kicking up dust and whispering secrets only it could understand. She could feel its cold breath against her neck, prickling and clammy, daring her to tremble. "Lily!" she screamed, voice breaking, fragmented hope intertwining with fear. The alley was now a battlefield, shadows clashing and colliding. Each step she took felt heavier, as if the ground itself conspired to hold her back. The twisted figure loomed closer, gliding smoothly, limbs flowing like water, its grin stretching grotesquely. "You think you can win her back?" It chuckled, a sound like fingers scratching against glass. "She is ours now." Gritting her teeth, Claire surged forward, focusing only on her daughter's voice, a beacon cutting through the oppressive dark. "You can have her. She's my daughter." But the moment the words left her mouth, the shadows seemed to laugh louder, drowning her out in sinister glee. Suddenly, the alley twisted a sickening motion as shadows congealed and swirled like a storm. Claire stumbled, fighting against the dizziness closing in on her. Just when she thought she might fall, she caught sight of movement. A flicker of pale light danced just beyond reach, teasing her. "Mommy!" The call felt different now, urgent yet fraught with quiet despair. The dim light was encased in a frame of dark, shadow-like tendrils reaching out, trying to pull it back into the abyss. But it beckoned, struggling against the pull, pulling Claire with it. With each faltering step, Claire felt her spirit ignite. If she could reach that light, she could peel back the layers of darkness suffocating her, could emerge triumphant, and save Lily. Just a bit further, she urged herself, forcing her legs to move, dragging against the weight of sorrow. Then she hesitated. The shadows thickened, billowing and reshaping, like a monstrous wave about to crash over her. "Join us, Claire," the familiar voices taunted, sowing doubt into her resolve. "You can be with Lily forever." Claire's breath quickened. The shadows promised relief, an escape from this torment, a lie that tempted anyone who heard it. Her mind raced between hope and surrender, heart hammering with indecision. Would going into the shadows mean losing herself? Losing Lily? Mommy! Lily's voice, sharp and cutting through the fog, snapped Claire back. It was enough. With renewed determination, she tilted her head back, eyes narrowed. I won't let you take her. Fueled by the fire of protection, Claire surged forward, a force reborn from love. The shadows screeched, a cacophony of rage and despair, lunging as she passed. Dark claws swiped at her, grazing her arm, but she pressed on, unstoppable. Lily! She called again, focus sharp, searching frantically for her daughter. Then she saw something movement, a small figure illuminated against the darkness. Mommy! Help! Claire dashed toward the flickering light. But just as she reached it, the shadows surged from all sides with an overwhelming force. They crashed against her, a tidal wave that swallowed her whole. The light flickered violently, throwing a final glimpse of Lily's terrified face before darkness engulfed everything. The world spun around her once more, the shadows housing whispers of despair and lost souls. Claire gasped for breath, struggling to find her footing. Echoes of laughter skittered around her, sharpening the edges of her fear. Now you really belong to us, a voice echoed, laughing chillingly as it circled her like a predator around prey. And just like that, Claire realized the shadows weren't just trying to keep her from Lily, they were trying to trap her in an endless dance of darkness. Outside, the moon hung high, illuminating a night that felt decidedly too still, too quiet. But within the alley, Claire knew the battle was far from over. She had to fight, had to break free before the shadows consumed not just her, but Lily too. Would the light be their salvation or the very reason for their doom? Claire could only struggle against the encroaching darkness, as it whispered secrets meant to tear her apart. What was waiting for her at the end of this tunnel? Would they finally face the shadows together, or would despair claim them both? Claire's lungs burned as she fought for air, battling against the suffocating blackness that threatened to swallow her whole. Every second felt like an eternity, each whisper from the shadows clawing at her sanity. A chorus of tortured voices shrieked and moaned around her, feeding on her fears. Face it, Claire, they jeered. You're stuck here with us. You've always been one of us. With a surge of adrenaline, she clamped her teeth together, forcing back the panic threatening to erupt from her throat. In this hell of despair, she had to keep fighting. There had to be a way out. Think, Claire! You've got to find Lily! She chanted silently to herself, shoving the darkness aside, pressing her palm against the cold ground. The gravel bit into her skin as she crawled, inching toward a faint pulse of warmth still flickering somewhere in the void. The shadows lunged again, a horde of dark tendrils clawing at her, eager to drag her into the abyss. But just as they reached for her, she felt something shift. A thread of strength pulled through her. It was Lily's voice, pleading from the depths of the gloom. Mommy! I'm scared. Each plea from her daughter lit a fire in Claire's chest, burning away the chill creeping into her bones. I'm coming, sweetie! She shouted, her voice stronger now, breaking through the chaotic whispers. In a moment of clarity, Claire remembered something fundamental. The love she had for Lily was a bright, blinding force that could pierce through the darkness. With that realization, she forced herself to rise, shaky and trembling but determined. Stay close, Lily! I'm right behind you. The shadows recoiled momentarily, a pause in their relentless pursuit. They seemed to recognize the shift, as if her newfound resolve disarmed them. Claire dashed forward, heart racing, desperate to follow the sound of her daughter's cries. But danger lurked everywhere. The shadows slithered around her, whispering promises and doubts, clawing at her mind. Let it go, Claire. The fight is useless, they hissed, a sickening chant that wrapped around her like a serpent. Never! She spat, summoning every ounce of courage. You won't take my daughter! You won't take us! A roar erupted from the darkness, a furious backlash against her defiance. It felt as if the air was about to rip apart. Claire gritted her teeth and sprinted headlong, pushing aside the dark, grasping arms. Then she saw it, a hazy outline illuminated by a radiant glow lily. Her daughter, small and fragile, stood at the edge of an ink-black void, a soft light emanating from her tiny body, illuminating her face in a halo. But the darkness curled around Lily, attempting to shroud her in shadow. "Mommy! Help me! Hold on!" Claire lunged forward, reaching for her daughter, desperation giving her strength. But the shadows, furious at her defiance, howled in anger. They shot forward with vile force, determined to claim both mother and daughter. "Don't touch her!" Claire shrieked, advancing despite the monstrous cries around her, feeling the surge of love enveloping her like armor. Just as she grasped Lily's small hand, a deafening crack echoed in the air, as if a barrier between light and dark was fracturing. Something shifted. The light trembled, wavering but strong. A moment hung precariously between them, the shadows swirling around, tightening their grip, threatening to pull them apart. "Together!" Claire shouted, squeezing Lily's hand tight. "We can do this together!" But the shadows reeled back in fury, deeper and darker than before, coiling and twisting. Claire braced herself, dread pooling in her gut. Would their combined light be strong enough to shatter the suffocating void? Or had they sealed their doom by awakening the full fury of the darkness? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, Claire felt the ground beneath them tremble. What awaited them both in that precarious moment? Would they slip into the abyss, or could they turn the tide in their favor? The shadows swirled aggressively, ready to strike. Just as the darkness surged forward, a blinding light erupted from the union of Claire and Lily's hands. It poured through the alley like a tidal wave, illuminating every corner of the store that had succumbed to night. The shadows writhed and recoiled from the radiant force, shrieking in panic as they dissolved into the ether, wisps of despair scattered by the guiding warmth of love. "Mommy!" Lily squealed with glee, her little face alight with joy. They stood together, and the once ominous alley transformed before their eyes. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a gentle, warm glow that filled the very fabric of the air. Fighting against the urge to tumble into the haven of darkness, Claire pulled Lily closer, feeling the warmth radiate between them. There was a spark, a reminder of hope that had been suffocated for far too long. "We did it!" Claire gasped, disbelief swirling like a whirlwind inside her. It was as if the shadows understood they had lost, retreating into the corners of the store. "You saved me, Mommy!" Lily cried, her laughter echoing like music in the air. At that moment, the oppressive whispers faded, a fragile silence settling in like a blanket. Claire felt tears prickling her eyes as relief washed over her, salt water mixing with every ounce of terror and doubt they had faced. "Let us get out of here," Claire urged, squeezing Lily's hand tighter. The flickering lights above danced as if celebrating their triumph, leading a path to the entrance. They raced forward, Lily's laughter intertwining with Claire's shaky breaths, a beautiful symphony of survival resonating in the night. As they reached the front doors, the store loomed ominously behind them, but its aura had shifted. Shadows no longer lurked. Instead, they stood as a reminder they had emerged victorious from the abyss. "Promise me we won't come back here, Mommy," Lily pleaded, wide-eyed and serious. "Never," Claire vowed, planting a kiss on top of her daughter's head. With one last glance at the store, Claire felt lighter, turning her back on the nightmares that would never haunt them again. Once they stepped out, the cool night air washed over them a sweet relief, like a balm on her soul. Claire inhaled deeply, tasting freedom, hope, their salvation woven in the fabric of each breath. They walked hand in hand down a quiet street, the stars twinkling above. The chilling sense of dread that had been their constant companion melted away, replaced by pure, unfiltered love. Claire glanced down at Lily, who wore a smile bright enough to light 1,000 dark corners. "What about the others, Mommy?" Lily suddenly asked, trepidation dancing in her innocent gaze. Claire paused, processing the question. The town had pushed aside the stories of those lost, forgotten like the shadows that once surrounded them. "You're right, baby," Claire said earnestly. "We need to tell everyone what happened. They must know, so we can protect them." Determination sparked in her chest. They would break the cycle, bring light to the corners that had long been shrouded in darkness. As they continued their walk into the night, a newfound strength bloomed within Claire. Today was just the beginning. They would uncover the truths that festered in their quaint town, ensuring their home became a safe harbor not for shadows but for love and hope. Smiling brightly, Claire felt her heart reconnect with the present, filled with gratitude. She glanced at Lily, who skipped ahead, her laughter ringing through the moonlit street like a promise of brighter days. This was a fresh start. A second chance. Together, they would stand against whatever darkness lay ahead. And at that moment Claire knew one thing for certain. Together, with love as their armor, they could tackle the world and face any shadows that dared to follow. Before you go, there's something you must do. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now, your support is everything and it feeds the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. I need to hear from you, and I know your thoughts are just waiting to spill out. And for the love of everything creepy and fun, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, and remember, true fans know what it takes to keep the channel thriving. Don't wait even one more second to share.